Dan the Wheelman here, and my very special guest today is this. This is the 2025 Mercedes-Benz G-Class, but it's not just any G-Class. There's something about this one. So what am I going on about here? What's all the caginess? Well, typically on a G-Class, this is where you put your spare tire. And spare tires, typically on a G-Class, are round. See? Here's a G-Class, G63, round spare tire, right? Yes, that would be true, and it makes sense. I mean, the tires are round, the wheels are round. Why isn't this round? It could be round if I wanted it to be. I could have my spare tire here if I wanted. Or I could have it be the spot to hold my charge cable, because this is a fully electric car. That's right, this is a fully electrified version of the famous G-Class, military-derived Jeep thing. And it's got all sorts of cool stuff going for it. 4 EV motors, lots of range, fast chargeability, and all that kind of stuff we love from our high-end EVs. Styling-wise, pretty similar to a gas-powered one. There are a couple of notable differences. There are some vents ahead of the rear wheels there. Those are to help with aero. Gas versions don't get that. You can get, I think, a fully blacked out version of the front fascia here, including around the headlights on the electric one. I don't have it here, but you can't get that on the gas one, I think, so that's a little bit different as well. The hood bulge is a little different in this one here than it is in the gas one. It just is bigger and goes for longer. I'm not really sure why, but it does. Maybe it's an aero thing. And that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it's got all the stuff that the G-Class, we've always loved the G-Class for, with the turn signals above the front wings here, the round headlights with LED DRL kind of bezels there. They've added a lip here for better aero on all G-Classes, so that's good for this. It'll give you better range. I've got 20-inch wheels here. So pretty cool looking thing. I love this paint. It's not cheap. Paint's gonna cost you in and around like $6,000 or $8,000, something like that. So it's not cheap, but it looks great. It is from the kind of Mercedes manufacturer with a K and a T-U-R, special kind of ops division, which uses this cool matte blue paint. I don't know the exact name of it, but I think it looks fantastic. Pretty cool looking vehicle that turns a lot of heads. So what is it about then this Mercedes-Benz G580 with EQ Dynamics, which is, I think, the full name of this thing? I'm just going to call it the G580 Electric from now on. We originally knew it as the EQG, but that has that's changed. That was almost like an internal code for this car, they're saying, although I'm pretty sure Mercedes actually said that's what this was going to be called. But anyway, regardless of all that, that's what it's called now. So the EQ nomenclature still exists. It's just arranged differently now in this one. So what is this one all about? Well, with it, you are getting the most powerful and torquiest G-Class you can get. 579 horsepower and 859 pound-feet of torque from 4 different EV motors, 1 on each wheel, and there's a transmission on each wheel too. So essentially you've got a powertrain in each wheel of this thing, which is wild. And we'll see why that's needed and why it's so wild in just a few minutes here. But that's what's going on here. You've also got a claimed 385 kilometers of range and 116 kilowatt hour battery. You could charge up to 200 kilowatts, gives you the usual, 10 to 80% in something like 30 minutes with this one here. No NACS yet though. This here is only done via a DC fast charger. I'm not sure where Mercedes is on NACS, otherwise known as, Tesla supercharger spec. I'm not sure where they're at on that, but a lot of OEMs are going to, or at least they're providing adapters for it. So I'm guessing that's what's happening here. And that might even be the case here. I'm not 100% sure on that. So there you have it for the charge. But you do pay for it. It starts at $206,000, this one, which, as equipped, I've got the Edition 1 here. We'll talk about that in just a second. This is like $250,000, which is the fully loaded version of the electric. The AMG starts at $250,000, whereas the G550, which is now a turbocharged 6-cylinder, no more V8 there, that one starts lower down. It's around $189,000, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you do pay for it with this one here, but you do get a ton of tech to go with it, of course, and you get all that power, and you get the prestige of having a G-Class. This is the latest gen of the G-Class. They've added a few stylists. It still is obviously a G-Class. It doesn't look very different at all. But they have rounded off some edges. They've changed the grille a little bit. They've given us a little bit of like an air kind of dam slash air I guess, airfoil right above the windshield here. You can't see it's on the outside, which is there to reduce drag, make for quieter progress, all that kind of stuff. It's a similar theme. It's kind of adjacent to what we see on the Mercedes convertibles. Same idea. Direct air and wind away from the vehicle. This thing is blocky. It's still very much a two-box shape as it's always been. It's blocky. As blocky as that Lego truck I showed you earlier. Really, it's fine. It's the perfect vehicle for a Lego conversion when you think about it, isn't it? But they've done some things to kind of lower that a little bit. So Edition 1, what does that mean? Well, for your 20 or so grand, you get black wheels, blue brake calipers, you get some special badging in here. This carbon fiber is awesome, black with blue weave. That might be an Edition 1 special, I don't know. And apparently with the Edition 1, you get some special seatbelts, but these are the least special seatbelts I've ever seen. They're just black. No contrast color stitching, nothing like that. So I'm not really sure what they mean by special belts, but it is the Edition 1, and people buying a vehicle like this, they like to be able to just say they got the first one. Mercedes has been doing Edition 1s of many of their new vehicles for a long time now. They've done it here. I think people just dig that about this one here. Other additions I have on here, I also have the Interior Package Plus, which on the surface is 12 grand, but when you go online and select it, it automatically selects special seating as well, which takes the cost up to 14 grand 500. So basically, the package is 14 grand 500. Now, that gets you some really neat stuff. It gets you seat massaging, heated and cooled seats. They've got dynamic bolsters, so even at low speeds when you're turning, this bolster, if I'm going to the left, my right side bolster will pop out a little bit to keep me centered. You can deactivate that, of course. The enhanced seating package is cool. It makes use of like the sound system, the heated seat, massaging seat to kind of make your drive that much more comfortable. There's all these different settings here. You've got a Joy, a Forest Glade, Summer Rain, Power Nap. Does that put me to sleep while I'm driving? Like, does it become autonomous? I don't think so. All this kind of stuff. Let's see what these do, these apps. Let's try Summer Rain, see what happens. Press play. Whoa, thunder. Also changes the ambient lighting in here too in the screen. That one's okay. I want to try another one though. Let's go to stop that. We're going to try, sea sounds. Well-being. Let's try what happens at well-being. Let's play that. It's like I'm in a spa. And then my seat massage is going now too. Pretty cool. All right. Nice little touch of opulence there for this rough and tumble off-roading Benz. I'm down with that. Can't use your radio when this is on though, obviously. That's okay. All right. 14 grand well spent? Not so sure, but pretty neat nevertheless. Another thing that all G-Classes get for 2025 is the latest version of Mercedes MBUX infotainment, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I've got augmented reality navigation here. There are various themes. You can modify it with the steering wheel controls or this pad down here or touching the screen. 12.3-inch central display. Still no heads-up display, though, on the G-Class, so that hasn't made it here yet. And it also now comes with keyless go. So you walk up to the car, you flick the door handle, and you are off. No need to flip the fob anymore on the G-Class as you used to have to do. But if you do want to do it, you still get that kind of like rifle bolt sound of all the doors unlocking, which you've always had, which I thought was pretty cool. Augmented reality navigation is great. It gives you little arrows on the screen here to tell you where to turn. The road sign you're supposed to turn on comes up, and the only way to miss your turn is if you drive through the arrows. So that's kind of cool, but there's no HUD, so you can't see it there. This still has that most Mercedes these days don't. It has seat controls on the door. Actually, most Mercedes do have that, but most of them now, it's haptic. This one though, button press. So much easier to use. These are actual buttons on here. They've also moved the window controls to the top here, which is just that much more practical, easy to access, easy to see, and so on. Pretty good stuff. So I like how they've kept that aspect of the G-Class, and they haven't moved to it when pretty much every other Mercedes product has. Another thing they've kept, the steering wheel controls are on a stock here, as is your steering wheel heater. Other Mercedes, you've got to go to the infotainment display to activate your steering wheel heater, which is a pain to have to do. What I don't have here though, and is a little tougher to swallow because of how expensive this vehicle is, not so much the HUD, but you don't have the additional heated surfaces like other Mercedes do. You can set them to have a heated armrest here on the door. That's where your steering wheel heat usually appears. I don't have that here. Space is pretty good. Rear seat space is okay for headroom, not great for legroom. This is a short vehicle, so that sacrifice has to come from somewhere, and that is rear seat legroom, as well as the rear cargo area is not that deep. That's always been an issue with G-Class. It's never been that deep back there. They've never been cargo loading stars. There's no underfloor storage either. Now, I can't remember if gas-powered G-Classes have underfloor storage. I don't even know if they do. The G-Class, above all else, is still an off-roader. It's still got whatever the German version of the trail-rated badges on the door jamb there. So they need to make it have the ground clearance, all that kind of stuff. It means they got to stuff a lot of that running gear, axles, and so on up into the body. And with this one, they got to stuff the battery somewhere. So no underfloor storage, and there's no frunk either. No Mercedes EVs have a frunk. EQE SUV, EQE sedan, EQS sedan, EQS SUV. None of them have it. I don't know about the EQB, or if it's even still called that. I don't know about that, but they don't have it, so I don't have it here either. Oftentimes when EV vehicles share platforms with a gas-powered vehicle, you'll lose the frunk. So that is the case here. The storage here is okay. The glove box is fine, but not huge amount. At least back there, the door, I should say, the rear door, the cargo door opens that way, so it's against the road when it's open. That makes sense, as opposed to how it is on the Defender, which opens the opposite way because the Defender's a British car and they park on the other side of the road over there. So now you have to sit in traffic and get sprayed by things as you're loading up your Defender. And this one here, the door will protect you if you're parallel parked and you're loading your trunk with your groceries or whatever. So I do appreciate that. And of course, the fact that I have my power cable in that exterior storage bin, the weather sealed one. That means I don't have to waste space in the trunk or in the cargo area with a charge cable. And driving through the bumps and berms of the city here, it's not bad. 20-inch wheels, not only do those give you better range because they're lighter, but you also get a better ride as a result. I don't love their styling too much. I think they can do a little bit more of that, but anyway, if you want styling, you got to go either to the G580 or the G63 if you want to have different styles. You can't get those awesome AMG mono blocks for this. Maybe you can if you're really nice to your dealer. That would be really cool if you could. Anyway, so they're probably too heavy. That kind of defeats the purpose, I guess. But in town, it's quite smooth. The suspension is well tuned. You still feel that body on frameness. This one, of course, is different in that it's got a big battery that's kind of part of its structure, but also kind of isolated from the structure to prevent it from being twisted when you're going off-roading and when you're going through water, which I think I mean, if the Defender Octa can do up to 1 meter of water fording, this can probably do somewhere close to that as well. I'll put it on the screen when I know. So you can go through water, and even with the electric powertrain, which is pretty impressive, to protect that battery, you've got a carbon fiber under tray, which is pretty huge, but saves weight. If they'd gone with the steel or aluminum, which is what they normally would use for something like that, it's going to add a ton of weight, and that's not what you want when you're trying to get the most range possible. So, but it's still, so it's still body on frame, still a bit, you can feel the truckiness of it, but it's isolated enough. It's quiet in here. The steering is precise, and because of the shape, those wings, which haven't really changed, including the turn indicators, which you can see the exterior turn indicators from in here, see them flashing. That's always pretty cool. I like that. So because of the way it's shaped, and you look in the mirrors, you see the fender flares and so on and so forth, it's really easy to position this vehicle when you're off-roading, sure, but also on every day when you're in the city. It's actually surprisingly easy to park and surprisingly easy to kind of like weave or maneuver through tight traffic. Considering how big of an aura it gives off, it's pretty easy. And it's actually not that, even though it seems huge and it's got the whole kind of army, kind of background to it and all that kind of stuff, it's actually not that much bigger than like a Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. And when I look at a Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, that's the 4-door one, I don't think, oh my God, that thing's massive. I mean, Rubicon spec, big tires, all that, sure. But for some reason, when I look at this, I do, even though they're kind of similarly sized. Same with a Land Rover Defender, same story. So their shortness when it comes to their wheelbase and their overall length, so their overhangs, really has been one of their best calling cards, and why they're so easy to drive. Also, these massive windows, huge greenhouses, super upright. I've got tons of headroom even with this sunroof, but massive side windows and front windows, so easy to see out of. You don't need any gimmicks like an extra window ahead of the wing mirror here like you see on some more slanty SUVs. You don't need that because there's hardly anything there at all anyway. The roof pillars are surprisingly thin, and they're shaped so that they're not obstructing your view too much. They're kind of shaped like that, that kind of gives you a cone view like that because of the way they're shaped. That's all really smart stuff. I mean, when they developed the original G-Class, now it's more of a status symbol, of course, but when they developed it, it had to be utilitarian. It had to be usable in adverse conditions, all that kind of stuff, and so they made it such that that's kind of stuck. I guess they've kind of gotten a little bit lucky there, have Mercedes, by originally getting this army Jeep and now making it this kind of like properly legendary SUV. So yeah, really easy. Burmester audio, even in this slightly more Spartan cabin than you get in a typical Mercedes. They've got the Burmester audio of these nice speaker grills, and they've shaped them to go with kind of the theme of the rest of the cockpit, which is very square, a lot of right angles. They've shaped the speakers to fit that as well, which I think is pretty cool. Love Burmester. The sound is amazing in this thing. It really is very good. And speaking of sound, it makes some when you drive. Now, I've got the G-Roar. This car's like a cartoon, G-Roar, and we'll talk in a second about G-Turn and G-Steering, and it's like the way it looks, sounds. It's a cartoon, this thing. Anyway, G-Roar gives you kind of like a V8 growl. You can turn it off if you want, of course, and when you're in one of the more off-roady driving modes, is there only one off? Let's see what we got here. When you're in trail or rock, it automatically turns off the sound so you can focus on the task at hand, maneuvering over narrow trails with rocky outcroppings and all that kind of stuff. And when you're outside, it doesn't sound like a V8, but oh, by the way, Mercedes says it's supposed to sound like a V8 equipped spaceship. Again, cartoon. Anyway, when you're outside, if anybody knows the movie The Dark Knight, the second one in the Chris Nolan trilogy of Batman, there was a scene where Batman sets his Tumbler Batmobile to loiter mode, where it just kind of sits there looking kind of mean, and then he starts to proceed to blow things up with it. But this one here has like a little, it's called G-Aura, I think, or something. When you're standing outside of it, it emanates this sound. I can't describe it, I'll just show it to you here. And that is required because EVs are quiet inherently. There's no motor, no exhaust. But traffic laws state, pretty much everywhere in the world, that you have to make some noise when you're driving so people know you're there. Makes sense, right? All right. So that's the urban. I think it's just cautioning me that there's a pothole coming up. These cars are getting too smart for their own good. So that's the urban kind of vibe of this. Oh, and speaking of urban, these paddles here, they're used for a couple of things, none of which are used to shift gears because there's not really a traditional transmission here. When in the city like I'm in now, they're used to change your recuperation. Maximum, strong, normal, and off. So when you release the pedal, the throttle I should say, it causes drag, regens power. So that's what these are for right now. And there's something else there for, which I'm going to show you a little bit later on, that's even crazier than that. So that's what these are for, to give you that much more kind of, to get the most out of your range when you're driving through town and so on. So that's the kind of the city vibe of this vehicle. You don't really get a sense for the power it has, all that kind of stuff, or the off-roadiness. We'll have a look at all that in just a few minutes. Okay, so we're on the highway now. Time to give it a little bit of power. I'm gonna put sport mode on here. There we go. Sounds nice. That really does sound like a V8. It sounds really natural too. It's completely fake. There is no internal combusting going on here, but it is pretty good sounding. I'll take that. On the highway, it's very quiet still, except for the noise, which you can turn off, like I said. it's quiet, not surprisingly low amounts of wind noise. I'm almost whispering here, and I think you can still hear me. Maybe that's a credit to my microphone settings. But anyway, very, very, very quiet in here. It's smooth. You still get that shuddering, forward, back, body on frame stuff that you get, not just body on frame, but short wheelbase body on frame. You're going to get a little bit of sort of pogoing there over the bumps, but otherwise it's smooth. The tires are incredibly quiet, which is nice. You gotta have to appreciate that. So road noise is low. I'm sure they've got plenty of sound insulation built in here to the windshield, side windows, maybe the front firewall here, around the wheel wells too. So that's probably part of it. But on the highway, it's quiet and it is fast for what is like an 8,000 pound car, 3,500 kilograms thereabouts. This thing is properly quick. The joys of EV and 4 engine or 4 motors and 4 transmissions, man. So if you'll recall, dear viewers, earlier I mentioned that there are paddles here that serve a couple of purposes, none of which involve shifting gears, as paddles normally do in cars and SUVs, because there's no real traditional transmission here to shift. One of the uses is to change your brake regen, as I demonstrated. The other one is pretty cool. It's called G-turn assist, and I think most know it as tank mode or tank turn mode. Basically what you do is you activate your rock crawl mode, you put it in low range, then you hit this button here. All of this is done via hard buttons right here on the dash, which I like. Usually these are used for your diff locks in a gas-powered G-Class, but that's not needed here. So you do low range, rock crawl, then you hit this button here for G-turn. Drive, hold the paddle, press the throttle, and there you go, Caterpillars. Just like that excavator you saw me just spin by there. It turns the outside, inside wheels different ways to help you rotate on the spot. What's the point? Well, I guess in theory, it helps reduce the need for like 3-point turns on really sharp trail or really narrow trails or sharp turns. The only trouble is I tried that and the conditions are pretty specific that you have to meet for it to work. Doesn't work on tarmac, needs to be on soft surface like gravel, grass, mud, or whatever. It can't really be on a slant of any kind. It needs to be pretty flat. Luckily, there's a button here for off-road cockpit which shows you your kind of angle of attack. But none of those times could I really get it to work until I found kind of like a gravel patch here. So it's a little gimmicky on that front. But it's an obvious kind of callback to what GMC did with the Hummer EV and what they've done with the Cadillac Escalade IQ. That kind of crab mode they have where the wheels can all turn the same direction, kind of like move you laterally. This one here moves you in like, so you can do like right angle turns, kind of like a Tron bike, if that helps you. But it's kind of gimmicky. What I think is less gimmicky is G-steer assist. That one will brake the inside wheel on a turn and give power to the outside wheel to help you swivel around turns. We saw that on the Ford Bronco. They have what's called, I think, trail turn assist on the Broncos and some other Ford vehicles. That one makes more sense. That one you can do while moving. It helps going around corners and stuff, and I like that. The other one's a little on the gimmicky side, but it's pretty cool. So where does that leave us then with this most electric of G-Classes? Well, it's definitely novel. I mean, the G-Class has kind of always been novel. It's always been a very novel thing. Hasn't changed a lot since it was new in like 79 or whatever it was. People still dig it, still a good off-roader. There's novelty there in general, but with stuff like G-turn assist, and G-steer assist, and G-roar, and G-aura, well, that just kicks the novelty up yet another notch. But then there's the G-spend you have to do on this thing. New, this is around $205,000 in Canada. As equipped, this is more like $250,000 in Canada, so swap that 0 and that 5 there after the 2. And so it's not cheap. And I was talking to my neighbor. Great, I love her. She's one of my favorites. She says, what? I told her about the feature. She goes, people go off-roading in $250,000 SUVs? And she has a point. It's a fair question to ask, if I'm honest. And so the whole G-turn thing, you know, it's a little on the gimmicky, a little on the comic book side, as we've been talking about. And the competition pool is surprisingly deep in this for this vehicle. You have the Escalade IQ and IQL. You have the GMC Hummer EV, the SUV and the pickup version, the Rivian R1S and the R1T. Soon coming, you have the Cayenne Electric is on the way as well. all of those cost less than this one does. To get into this price bracket, we don't really have it out there yet. Yes, when the inevitable Rolls-Royce electric Cullinan comes, and it probably is going to come, that'll take it up there. The electric Range Rover is also coming. That'll come up in the price bracket. But right now, this one's kind of on its own there. So you have to really like the G Aura, pardon the pun, of this particular EV. And people they're like, sales of the G-Class, 1 in 10 or something are the electric one. Now that's not that crazy. Most OEMs, they offer an electric version of a car, of a gas car, like for example the GMC Sierra EV versus the standard Sierra 1500. Of course the gas one's going to outsell it, and that's kind of the same case here. Thing is, the price of this is really high. You can get into a G-Class for less than 200 grand. The AMG though starts at 250, so it starts at what this is kind of almost topping out at. So, you know, this isn't the most expensive in the lineup, yet it is the most powerful. So it's a tough one. You do have to, people are gonna like the novelty of it, and people will spend money. Just like people will spend money to get the Edition 1 version of the electric G-Class, people will spend money to get the electric version of the G-Class. They will. They like to be able to say they have it, they have the power, and it's usable. Still has to be able to ford water, and it does. It has to be able to go off-road, which we've done. It does all that stuff. Are people really going to drop upwards of 200 grand for it? I'm not sure. I feel like people that are really going to go off-road with their G-Class are probably going to get like base G580 with like 18-inch wheels, you know, and some off-road tires. Like that's kind of the vibe I get there. Or they're going to go down market a bit to something like the Lexus GX. Gas, of course, but that's what we're talking about here with regards to this type of vehicle. So it's a very, very bit, it's very much a curio, this electric G-Class, but it's very cool nevertheless, and the fact that it exists is hilarious, and I love it for that. Thank you for tuning in to this quick look at the 2025 Mercedes-Benz G580 EQ edition, G580E. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. If not, no hard feelings, of course. You can follow me on Instagram at Dan the Wheelman, on Blue Sky at Dan the Wheelman. Of course, keep it locked to the Dan the Wheelman YouTube channel. Always fun new stuff going up here. So thanks again for tuning in. Sayonara, folks. See you soon.